Hello! Today's episode is mostly about comedic character archetypes and how they can help you create distinct characters for your screen, stage, whatever kind of play you're writing. Some real top-notch normal content, you know? But this is also the companion channel to a pilot script I'm developing from scratch, so I'm going to apply these archetypes to my own evolving cast of characters to give you a real-world example of how one dude rolls that stone a few feet further up the hill on his little quest to get an idea out of his head and onto the page. If that last part sounds compelling to you, then why not go back to episode 1 and take this ride from the start? If your vibe is more just like, give me the tips and I'll be on my way, then go ahead and click on that progress bar and scrub through me like a trombone solo. Still here? Alright, let's go. Public access TV writing. So here's what I've fiddled around with since last time. And these all deserve their own episodes, except maybe for setting. I don't respect setting very much, and that's a mistake. Wait for that video. But the rest of those, I have a deep reverence for. So we will not get sidetracked right now talking about all of them, even though I got sidetracked trying to figure out if we should talk about them for a long time. All that matters is story engine vroom vroom, because it's what let me know that we should go back to characters. Quick and dirty definition of a story engine vroom vroom, if you ain't heard of these puppies before, is the conflict, goal, or circumstance that your story turns to again and again to drive the story forward. It's the main propellant of your story, the primary fuel, an issue or question that you think you can wring 6 seasons of a television show out of. In How I Met Your Mother, it's Ted Mosby's search for a lady to turn into a mommy. And in CSI Miami, it's Horatio Cain's daily quest for justice in the face of the unending bloodlust of the people of Florida. The quick and dirty answer to what is my story engine is Doug's attempts to gain the recognition he believes he deserves for creating the first sentient robot. And that made me realize that most of the supporting characters discussed in episode 1 were based around the technical college Min and Doug work at, but because Doug's ambition, aka the engine, is not centered around the school, we aren't going to be there all the time. So what we need are some more mainish characters that can have a reason to be around way more often to support a traditional AB or A, B, and C storyline sitcom structure. More characters. Okay. How about an assistant? Every mad scientist needs an assistant, and Doug might not be, mad, but he is very grumpy. But why would he have an assistant if he's a nobody and he ain't got much money? Well, how about a student wanted to pursue a postgrad degree at the college and they were a bit too dim to realize the school didn't offer a postgrad? Now, all you need is for the dean to be desperate for that tuition and for her to foist this wannabe PhD onto Doug under the guise of a customized, high-contact master's program. And Doug has an assistant who he occasionally has to reassure that he is in fact getting credit, he's probably not, for all the weird stuff Doug needs him to do. I'm picturing a guy who's always trying to put her to fire. He started while he was trying to put her to fire, that he started while he was trying to put her to fire, that he started. He never stops believing that he can do it, whatever it is, despite his consistent failure to do it in the past. And one of his tiny dreams is to one day be referred to as a type A person. Let's call him, I don't know, Bucky. I'm not set on that. And then I thought that Doug doesn't really have friends, but Min would, so let's bring her best friend into the fold. How about a former fry cook who now fronts a restaurant owned by the mob, a thrill seeker who doesn't care that she's being set up to take the fall because her luck's never run out yet, and who, as little more than a decoration at her current workplace, is free to bother Min constantly in search of her next good time. From the outside, you might think she's a bad influence on Min if you don't think hangovers build character, but she's fiercely loyal to Min and only ever nice to Doug when he drives her drunk ass home, and sometimes not even then. She's easily bored and really wants A1 to do battle bots. I think her name is Tegan? But enough specific details. It's time to revel in a pastime enjoyed by humanity since the dawn of civilization. Lumping people together. What do Homer Simpson, Patrick Star, and Kelso all have in common? Don't overthink it. They wouldn't, because they're all pretty dumb. An archetype is a character's default position, the place they live most often, and informs how they interact with the rest of the world. The first set of archetypes that I was introduced to was 8 Characters of Comedy by Scott Sedita. Here they are as the cast of Arrested Development. Lovable loser, logical smart one, neurotic, bitch, bastard, the dumb one, in their own universe, womanizer, manizer, materialistic one. But while I was searching for the name of Scott's book because I couldn't remember it, Google brought me this article by Gunnar Todd Rohrbacher, who maybe only wrote a blog post instead of a book, but you know what? I like them, and here they are to an assortment of characters in case you never watched Arrested Development and you're feeling left out. Anchor, dreamer, neurotic, rebel, innocent, eccentric, buffoon, cynic, narcissist, player. Personally, I think I prefer Gunnar's list, with the caveat that I'd swap Anchor for Logical Smart One because the name explains what it is better, and I'd bring Bastard over because sometimes characters, more than being cynical or narcissistic, are just mean. If you want hard definitions on these archetypes, I'm going to post links in the description that will go into further detail, but since other people have already done a great job explaining them, I'm going to talk instead about something that's been very helpful for me. Let's take a look at a couple of rebels. April Ludgate, rebel. Bender, rebel. Rick Sanchez, rebel. They definitely share a you can't tell me what to do kind of vibe, but of course, they aren't the same either. So, what if we do this? Now we're capturing some nuance. You can't tell April what to do because she's trying to commune with the dead raccoon or something. Whereas Bender is driven by less whimsical and more base desires, such as the desire to kill all humans. Rick, who you could definitely argue is cynical or a narcissist, can buck all authority because he's the smartest thing in the universe. When you combine 2 archetypes, you can unlock the human genome and peer into the atoms that make up our souls. Or it's just more helpful to have 2 descriptors rather than 1. I like it because you can start to see the interplay between the 2 poles of a character's personality. So let's do my characters. Doug is a narcissistic dreamer. Min is a cynical ex-player, but she has urges. A1 is an innocent rebel. Bucky is a neurotic buffoon. Tegan, a narcissistic rebel. Sudi, an eccentric innocent. And Quaalude, a narcissistic bastard. But of course you're capturing more nuance with 2 descriptors than 1. Cool move, Kyle. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But it's useful to be able to see your characters in the context of other shows, understand what role they're fulfilling, and here's a fun trick. Let's pair existing characters that embody the flavor of the archetype that we see in our characters. So, Doug is like if grumpy dreamer Nick Miller from New Girl was the brain from Pinky and the Brain. Min is cynical Liz Lemon trying to keep a lid on her inner hedonistic Dee Reynolds. A1 is like if you stuffed super positive Ted Lasso into the mischievous body of R2-D2. Bucky is what happens if Cousin Greg and Luann had a baby. Tegan is half Samantha Jones and half Frank Reynolds. Quaalude, A1's alter ego when he's messed up from connecting to the internet, see episode 1, is like if Tracy Jordan tried to be the Joker. And Sudi combines the creepy intensity of Wednesday Addams with the innocent inquisitiveness of Data. So that, I feel, is a fun way to kind of crack your characters open. And if you want to take things up another notch, maybe you want to make yourself a character matrix. Welcome to my matrix! I made this one and the machines can never take that away from me. The character matrix is a little exercise to help you start to think about how each of your characters relate to each of your other characters. You can make it in Google Sheets or Excel, or you can draw lines on paper. The way the layout works is you write your character names down the left-hand side and along the top. You're going to read this from left to right. So each box represents what the character on the left thinks of the character over top. For example, here's Doug on A1, his greatest achievement and his greatest frustration. A nattering, annoying, wearing responsibility that is going to make him famous. Doug is mostly uncomfortable, but occasionally moved by A1's love. He'd prefer that they were business partners. But down here, you can see A1's thoughts on Doug.
Doug, you the man. You the Hugh, man. I owe you my whole little life. You are fire. You are rad. 'Cause I love it here. The only thing that makes me sad is that we can't get everyone to agree I'm so important like you want. And global hunger. and the climate crisis, and oh look, a rapper in the wind.
You'll notice Doug's is in third person and A1's is in first person. You can do whatever you want. You can start to mess around with your character's voices here, or you can just write the straight facts, or you can do a combination of those two things, or you can do an ollie. Just, hey, have some fun. How about that? This is also a great place to start inventing some interesting dynamics that aren't necessarily obvious. For example, I thought it would be fun if Bucky was secretly in love with Min and feels torn because he thinks he could get her if he wanted, but he must be loyal to Doug. He believes himself to be engaged in kind of a forbidden dance with Min that is absolutely and entirely in his head. That's funny to me. So take a chance, throw stuff at the wall, say they can all do kung fu. This is your Matrix. And that's it, I think. Characters are so important. Everyone is always saying things like, a story starts and ends with characters. And I think they're right. The thing is though, your characters are going to change, at least mine always do. Sometimes big, sometimes small, but as you work your way towards the first draft of your pilot, you're going to have new ideas and some of the traits you assign them will give way for stuff that you prefer for one reason or another. Maybe you realize they need to do a whole different thing, have a whole different purpose in your story, and that's gonna change it all. So my last precious hyperlink to y'all today in the description will be this article about BoJack Horseman's pitch package. Read it. Some characters are similar to what they'd eventually be on TV. Some of the characters never even made it to TV. They were deemed not right for the show somewhere along the way and pushed into a well. So, just make decisions and move forward. Keep it the f*** up. I love ya. See you next time.